This is State Representative James Tallarico from Texas. If you're seeing this video, my Democratic colleagues and I have just left our beloved state to break quorum and stop Trump's redistricting power grab. Trump told our Republican colleagues to redraw the political maps here in Texas in the middle of the decade to get him 5 more seats and protect his majority in Congress. They're turning our districts into crazy shapes to guarantee the outcome they want in the 2026 elections. If this power grab succeeds, they will hang on to power without any accountability from the voters. But Texas Democrats are fighting back. We're leaving the state, breaking quorum, and preventing Republicans from silencing our voices and rigging the next election. We are not fighting for the Democratic Party. We are fighting for the democratic process.
So let me get this straight. You are saving the democratic process by quite literally denying and obstructing the democratic process. In a state, by the way, where the popular majority of people did not elect your party, but rather elected the Republican Party to pass conservative policies, and you are currently allegedly saving this democratic process not by having a democratic vote where you genuinely vote no and manage to strike it down by convincing people and winning hearts and minds. No, rather, you are simply denying a democratic vote from happening, and this, according to them, is so-called democracy. Well, therein you have the typical fake virtue signaling and ridiculous moralizing from Democrats. That is exactly why I have completely disregarded and ridiculed their claims thus far of gerrymandering and Republicans rigging the 2026 midterms, because these people are completely disingenuous. But nonetheless, we got to bring you yet another update on the disingenuous Democrats and the current Texas redistricting battle that we've been covering pretty extensively here today, because apparently Democrats have attempted here to pull out one of the dirtiest performative tricks that they could. And by the way, I'm not exactly surprised. I frankly expected this to happen, but that is by denying quorum. So what does that mean? Well, to make a very long story short, in order to ensure that the Texas map does not pass after this week, it made it out of the congressional committee. Now it is set to face a full vote in the Texas state legislature. They are essentially trying to leave Texas. They're fleeing to other states. So that way, by the parliamentarian rules, you do not have enough people, the quora, right, sufficient enough to actually hold the vote. Right, so basically just ensuring here the vote can't happen. You could almost see it as something of like a filibuster here. And apparently they're doing that by ironically fleeing to Chicago, Illinois at the hands of J.B. Pritzker. That's happening on one hand. On the other hand, apparently Representative Jasmine Crockett, who's been throwing a massive fit about the Republican attempts to actually make the midterms more fair and more representative of the popular will of the American people. She is apparently all doing so because the new Texas map has revealed it may be drawing out her congressional district. And to make a long story short, Jasmine Crockett may be in a position here where she loses her seat. So we'll give you the full rundown on both of these stories here today, because apparently if you're asking the question, hey, is what Democrats are doing right now actually legal? Like, can you just leave the state and refuse to let a vote pass because you never show up to the Capitol to begin with? Well, to make a very long story short, it is not legal. These people currently face not just fines, but also a civil arrest. So we'll get into it and encourage the Republicans here today to go full steam ahead and, of course, not allow ridiculous performative theatrics by Democrats who are in the minority here to train wreck any of the plans. So we'll tell you all about it. First, though, folks, do us a favor. If you enjoy our content, make sure you hit that like button down below and subscribe to the channel if you are new. Subscribing here, guys, is not only the best way to support our videos, but it also ensures that you can stay up to date with all of the latest news and coverage. And again, to basically give you the rundown on this here today, as you can see, Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker apparently decided this weekend to help Texas Democrats stop Republican redistricting plans by allowing them to flee and deny Republicans the quorum necessary to hold the vote. So about 30 House Democrats over the weekend have flown to Illinois in order to prevent the GOP from having enough votes to proceed. This is happening after Governor Pritzker met with Texas Democrats last month and is providing logistical support for their week-long stay. The reason for this is because J.B. Pritzker's family is incredibly wealthy. They're actually the owners of the Hyatt hotels And so they're basically giving out free paid-for hotel rooms to the Democrat lawmakers to ensure here that they can obstruct the vote. Of course, I think there's already genuine questions here on whether this is legal. That seems like a massive conflict of interest to, basically use the governor to be paying privately for the Democrats in another state to be able to deny a vote. It's all kind of shady, but nonetheless, take a listen here to the clown, Hakeem Jeffries, surrounded by another clown, Representative Al Green out of Texas, announcing today how they're quote-unquote standing for the people by denying a Democratic vote by lawmakers elected by the people. And then we'll show you what's happening next, because again, I'm not sure this will end so well for them. But first, take a listen.
We have to make clear to the people of Texas what's taking place, because it's unacceptable, unconscionable, and un-American. And as elected officials, we have that responsibility. That's not something we can just brush aside. There are 50 states in America. I'm here in Texas for a reason, because these legislators are standing up. These members of Congress are standing up and communicating to the people of Texas what's occurring right now in the middle of the summer at a special session. And we will make clear that we're going to do everything possible to support the Texas legislators as they consider the best ways to push back. It's an all hands on deck moment, and all options should be on the table to protect the people of Texas. But Texas Democrats are going to be the ones to decide that. We will fight them politically. We will fight them governmentally. We will fight them in court. We will fight them in terms of winning the hearts and minds of the people of Texas and beyond. The Texas Democrats are going to show up and stand up and speak up for what's right for the people of Texas. And they're showing courage and conviction and character in doing that. And we'll see what happens over the next few days, over the next few weeks. But the one thing I know is clear, that Texas Democrats are fighting for the people.
So again, you're fighting for the people by not allowing a vote by lawmakers elected by the people. You're fighting for the people by encouraging and keeping in place Democrat gerrymandering that denies the will of the people. But the Republicans are the bad guys here. Okay, completely ridiculous. Nonetheless, we'll get into this, because I first of all want to point out that it is highly ironic that these Democrat lawmakers in Texas are not just fleeing to any Democrat state, but they are, of course, fleeing to the state of Illinois, the very place that we so often point out here, guys, is among, if not the single most gerrymandered state in America, at the hands of none other than Governor J.B. Pritzker, right? Again, so keep that in mind. We're not just talking about any Democrats here. This is the very single state that is going out and saying, we cannot allow Texas Republicans to rig their congressional map. I've shown this map a million times by now, but as you can see, you just look at this district right here that cuts from about St. Louis, Missouri, almost, bordering there, to Champaign, Illinois. Guess what it's drawn out as intentionally? A Democrat seat, a little tiny spaghetti noodle in the middle of the mostly Republican parts of Illinois, as well as when you zoom into, look at the 17th district, what's going on there. Again, another light blue Democrat seat on purpose. Even zooming in on Chicago, you'll notice a lot of ridiculously drawn maps like, what is this right here? What is the 11th district? What's going on there, right? But again, this is something that even the New York Times has admitted is a gerrymandered state. And so apparently, in the full delusion, in the full disingenuousness and dishonesty of what they're doing here, they couldn't pick any state. They had to go to Illinois in order to protest the gerrymandering. Frankly, quite hilarious here. We've gone over this many times, but for those of you who are new to the channel, here's just a refresher on why, again, I say these people are completely dishonest and ridiculous about gerrymandering. No, they're the ones gerrymandering as well. And all I'm saying is, okay, I'm mature about it. I'm not here to cry, you're rigging the elections. That's what people do with political power. All Republicans are saying is, if you guys are allowed to play the game dirty, then why shouldn't we do the same thing? And that's exactly what we're doing right now in Texas.
5 districts Trump carried by double digits in 2024 and helped the GOP retain their House majority. It makes areas in the Rio Grande Valley redder, packs Democrat-controlled districts, making them bluer, and creates new Republican-leaning districts elsewhere. So, amidst all the freak out, let's take a look at some of the examples of Democrats gerrymandering. Let's head over to the wall. First up, let's take a look at Maryland. In 2016, Republicans won 37% of statewide votes for the U.S. House in Maryland, but they only got 1 out of 8 seats because of the way the congressional districts are drawn in Maryland. Maryland's not the only one. It also has occurred in California, in Illinois, and across the country. Let's show you exactly, though. Let's scoop in on Maryland, take a look exactly how they drew these districts. I think if you can, I don't know how tightly you can see this or come in on this, but you can see the 3rd congressional district in Maryland. I mean, it's got lines going every which way. All the way around Annapolis, it's shaped something like, I don't know how to describe that, like a serpent. Or the 4th congressional district, look at this, winding its way around, trying to get closer to Annapolis. That's the definition of gerrymandering, making geographically odd districts to get the voting base exactly how you want it. By the way, in 2022, it got struck down so bad, a court took the map and called it illegal. But this is Illinois. They're also guilty of gerrymandering. Their 2020 map, it drew Dems, it wiped away all 3 toss-up districts in the state and even threw out 1 solid Republican district, giving them almost a net of 4 new seats in Illinois. So why the freak out over the Texas map? Joining me now is Texas Public Policy Foundation Vice President Chuck DeVore. Chuck, it's great to see you. There's a lot of freak out because it's potentially the case that Republicans can pick up 5 seats in the House if Texas is successful in redrawing its map. But has Texas done something different than any of these other states?
No, Texas is not doing anything different at all. And in fact, other states have done mid-decade redistricting. You saw that in Pennsylvania in 2018. Look, this is all about politics. It's all about power. If you look at Texas today and what they propose, once Texas is done, if in fact this gets passed, and that's an open question, by the way, then Texas will still not quite be as gerrymandered as California. So even with all that effort, California still squeezes out more votes per seat than would the proposed Texas seats.
Yeah, exactly what we've been saying. And it's pretty hilarious because anytime that you point this out to liberal pundits or influencers or commentators, any of these people, right, stating that, hey, every time you guys, gerrymandering, the Republicans rigging the elections, you actually break it down. Democrats in the last census gerrymandered worse than Republicans. Look at your own side. Stop crying about it. They'll say things like this right here, right? Then introduce a federal bill that bans gerrymandering nationwide. It's worth noting that gerrymandering technically on paper is already illegal nationwide. And even with so-called independent commissions, guess what? It still happens, okay? This idea that liberals have a tendency to so often have that, if you just had legislation, you could fix every problem. No, it's not really the case. At the end of the day, politics is about power. Ultimately, I'm a mature adult. I recognize that both sides are going to do what's possible to, maintain and gain their political power. And that's just a situation you have, right? So I responded here to Brian Tyler Cohen, for instance, saying, this is literally what they do, right? When the Republicans are gerrymandering, they're so pissed off. They're like, the evil Republicans are gerrymandering, they're rigging elections. But when Democrats are gerrymandering, then the response is more like, then this is a national problem. We need bipartisan legislation about it. It's so ridiculously dishonest, but nonetheless, there you have it. So look, here's the picture I see, okay? I'm not surprised that Democrats are pulling out the dirty tricks. Again, mature about this situation. As I said yesterday, when we were talking about them leaving D.C. before confirming the judicial nominees, I said, look, you have to expect Democrats to play dirty. You have to presume they're going to pull out every dirty trick in the book. The question is, are you prepared and are you willing to counter it? So on the very question itself of, is it illegal, is it allowed for Texas Democrats to flee the state of Texas for Illinois in order to deny the quorum necessary for a vote? Well, newsflash, ladies and gentlemen, under Texas state law, it is not. If you read right here, this very article, from MSNBC, they point out that these very Texas Democrats, however, face the risk of a $500 a day fine and even a possible arrest for fleeing the state, because guess what? It is against the law. The Republican-controlled legislature approved this measure in 2023, 2 years after state Democrats tried to leave the state for 3 weeks to block an elections bill from progressing. So obviously now the only question to Republicans is, okay, so you've seen Democrats pull out every dirty trick in the book. You've seen them use exhaust all of their political power to try to deny you this vote. Are you going to do the same? Because to me, the situation seems very obvious. Okay, it's already against the law. So you have one of two options. You can either take the more moderate approach, I guess you could say, and that is to change the House rules to essentially make it so that these 30 Democrats are not allowed to deny quorum, because it seems like a pretty broken process to begin with. It's like, okay, so literally, because think about this for a moment too. You could win political power. You could have Republicans in majority in anywhere, right? And then they can't get anything passed because the Democrats just won't show up to work. So you can't have the numbers to create a vote. So that's already a problem in itself. So I say, if you want to take the moderate approach, just change the rules. Make it so that if Democrats don't show up, we move forward without them. We're going to change that, modify that. Okay, number one. But secondly, the other option, obviously, is to simply enforce the law. Hey, again, guys, nobody's above the law. So if it's already Texas state law that you're not just fined, but you can potentially even be arrested for not showing up to the vote, then, arrest them. It really is that simple, right? Again, they play dirty, we play dirty. No one, I'm not saying anything. I'm not, these Democrats are such obstructionists. No, you want to play dirty, then we play dirty. That's all I'm saying, okay? So really now the only question is, I don't care what the Democrats are doing, is the Republican Party of Texas, who used to be pretty weak, frankly, but over the past few years has gotten a lot better. Credit is due where it's due. Are you now going to enforce this question? Well, as you can see, Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton is, of course, warning Democrats that if they flee the Capitol to unlawfully dodge voting, yes, it's illegal on GOP redistricting, that nobody's above the law and they can indeed be arrested and hauled back to Austin by law enforcement. The only question I have again is that basically just an empty threat? Or is that something you're actually going to follow up on? That's, of course, a key question. Here's only hoping that the Republicans follow up on this and don't allow this stupid grandstanding by them to deny what we plan to move forward and do here. Just going to say that on one hand. So there you have it. There's the story out of, the quorum situation. I do also want to bring you an update on apparently the one and only Jasmine Crockett, because she has thrown a massive fit about this whole situation. We might now have the reason why, though, because the new congressional map, I should say, right out of Texas, the redistricting plan, actually, indeed, according to Jasmine Crockett, may draw her out of her own district. It would basically eliminate the 33rd district, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Crockett represents the 30th district, but under the modifications, you essentially have the situation where the two Democrats next to each other, one seat's going to be eliminated, and so they would have to basically pick who's going to run that seat, and you could have the situation where Jasmine Crockett is in a bit of a predicament and she can't find a congressional seat that she can hold and ultimately win. I gotta say, that's just absolutely hilarious, but it also goes to show you perhaps why Crockett has been so enthusiastic and passionate about this Republican effort to rig the midterms. Maybe it all makes sense now, right?
Do what this legislature is consistently been found to be guilty of doing, which is to make sure that they can do an overemphasis of Anglo voices in this state. Only 40% of this state is Anglo, yet somehow we have more than 60% of our seats that are elected by Anglo majority districts. As I said in 2021, as I argued against these maps, the math ain't mathing. I don't think that it's an accident that Donald Trump picked up the phone, called down to Texas, told Abbott what he was going to do, and like a small, ridiculous child, he just fell in order. I don't think any of that was an accident. But what I can tell you is that we will not be an accident. We, the people of Texas, will be very intentional about making sure that they hear us, about making sure that we call them out for what they're doing. This is racist, what they are doing. Let me hear you. That is coming up with policies that will help all people, no matter what their ethnic background. They have decided, never mind.
Well, I gotta say, I find that to be a rather hilarious statement that the math ain't mathin'. Because Jasmine Crockett is right to an extent. Yeah, the math ain't mathin'. You know why that is? Because of the current race-based gerrymandering that is allowing your colleague in Texas's 33rd district to hold his seat. You know what math is not mathin' to me? And notice, by the way, she doesn't, when she talks about it being racist, she doesn't state that, oh, the majority of Texas is black, which it's not. She states the majority is black, brown, and Asian. Why does she say that? Because, of course, as we brought up, actually, I think, what was it, yesterday, we did this video on the Supreme Court potentially looking to strike down the race-based gerrymandering, which is actually a form of racial discrimination in itself. You have, like this right here, Texas congressional districts. This is a black majority district that, because of the outdated civil rights statutes that basically mandate that you draw these lines on race and you have to do it, and it has to be representative of a racial group, which seems to me like racial discrimination in itself, right? You result in stuff like this right here, right? Race-based gerrymanders that are basically just free giveaways, free seats to the Democrats. Want to remind everyone, this is currently what the state of Texas is looking to get rid of. So I have to say, yes, indeed, the math is not mathing. Why is it, for instance, right? You want to talk about disproportionate representation, that in southern states, that in many other places, because of this majority-minority mandate, which, by the way, never goes in the reverse. It never makes it look like, for instance, in New Mexico, where white people are the majority, they don't get a minority-based district there. And why is that? Because when you look at a state like Texas, and the reason why she does not exclusively say black, but she says black, brown, and Asian, is because in districts like this and in districts like hers, as a result of race-based gerrymandering, actually, black voters are being overrepresented. They're getting an unequal share of the seats in the electorate and the voting power in this country because of racial discrimination under the Voting Rights Act and race-based gerrymandering, which, by the way, the Supreme Court is currently looking to outlaw. So just want to mention that. But anyways, there you have it. Okay, the math is not math, and true, Jasmine Crockett, you should not have a congressional seat. How's that, huh? That's a pretty funny idea. Anyways, with that said, guys, let me know your thoughts on all of this in the comment section down below. What do you think of the Texas Democrats fleeing the state? What do you think of Jasmine Crockett? Let me know. Be sure to leave a like on this video, guys. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. And until next time, God bless and peace.